Hello, Tom Brady is still the GOAT. First round fantasy fans, welcome on into the First Round Fantasy Podcast, your home for second round advice. I'm your host, Gabriel Miramontes, joined today by Jacob Bartley, Damon Ricks, and Joseph Morsaz. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
We're doing great, guys.
Pretty good, man.
Feeling good.
Feeling good. Yeah. Did anyone have any
good.
last minute play calls or was anybody depending on that Monday night game?
I was defeated by Daniel Jones himself.
Wow.
And what Daniel Jones?
Okay. It wasn't just Daniel Jones. It was also Mike Evans, but still, I had Gronk going too. It was a battle back and forth. I took the lead and then I lost the lead. Then I was coming back and then the Daniel Jones touchdown defeated me. So, well, look, I'm not mad if it's Daniel Jones. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like,
damn, you had Cup on your bench too. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, and basically, so it's a 2-quarterback league. If I started Jimmy Garoppolo instead of Ben Roethlisberger, I believe if I would have started Ben Roethlisberger, I would have won. But Jimmy had a great matchup. I thought it was going to be a big game, but what can we do?
No fault to you there. I was also a Jimmy G starter. Luckily for me, I was able to survive the treachery that was the San Francisco 49ers this week. But we'll get more into that a little bit. If I didn't say thank you for welcoming – I did not butcher that at all. But if I wanted to say – if I forgot to say it, I'll say it now. Thank you for coming on in and hanging out with us today. We got a great show planned for you. And before we get into that – I just want to let you know, some of us are up in the first round fantasy merch today. Feel free to find it yourself on tpublic.com. It is there. It is on sale. Look good. Look great. All right. Tomorrow, it's a big day. You're going to go out. You're going to vote. Wear your first round fantasy t-shirt. Actually, if you order it tonight, you're not going to be able to get it. Just forget what
Only if you already have one.
Yeah.
Next, feel free to listen to us anywhere. Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. I can't even think of all the places where we are. I can't keep track. We are literally everywhere. So no matter what, you're here with us today, and we appreciate you for that. Guys, we're going to skip all of it and just get right into it today.
He needs some milk.
Well, week in and week out, we have injuries, and that's one of the unfortunate things that we have to look forward to every week. And first and foremost, Jimmy Garoppolo is the big one because, like Jacob had said earlier, he had a primo matchup against the Seattle Seahawks. I started him. I'm sure many of people started him, and it looks like he's going to be out at least 6 weeks or so with a high ankle sprain. I think they said indefinitely, right, guys?
Yeah, I'll be surprised if they bring him back at all this year. This is kind of a throwaway season for the Niners.
Yeah, the season's done. If Kittle's out, we'll talk about Kittle, but it's just he's out indefinitely. If he goes to IR, it's 3 weeks, but I think he's done, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, why not bring Kittle into the conversation? Because it looks like he hurt the big toe or one of his toes or just his foot in general, and he's looking to miss 8 weeks. So that team has just been decimated all year long by injuries, which is really sad when you think about it because they were real contenders this year, and it's unfortunate when injuries happen to good teams like that. But holy cow.
The football life out of me this week, man. With that loss to the Seahawks, Kittle going down, trading Quan Alexander, Jimmy G going down, Coleman going down again
I don't think they're tanking, but they're kind of like, what are they supposed to do? They're being forced to give up almost.
Well, the conference is just too good, man. You got too many good teams in this conference. The whole division is stacked. I mean,
that's a great point. If we were in the NFC East, we would still be competing for the for first place.
We would have never brought Jimmy Garoppolo back. We would have just had Nick Mullins play the last 3 games and beat up on some of the Giants and the Redskins or the football team. It would have,
Yeah. But hey, Kittle, I don't think Kittle's going to be done because he's the type of guy that wants to play no matter what. Like if he's healthy in 8 weeks, he'll want to play again. So I think we will see Kittle. But that's so far. How long is 8 weeks from now? Is this, the season would be over, right?
Yeah, the season would be over.
Oh, never mind. Then.
The
season's going by so fast.
It is. We are technically over the halfway hump, boys. So we're getting into the thick of things. This is where you're finding out, I'm probably not going to make playoffs. Or you're in contention or you're in first place. So whoever you are, guess what? No matter what, there's still a chance. And I'll bring up my first year ever of playing fantasy. I started out 0-6. 0-6. Found myself in the championship game, pulling off 6 wins in a row and got a few lucky playoff wins. It just happens, guys. So never, ever keep your head down. But back to the 49ers really quick. I wanted to bring up an important question. You guys have guys like, Ayuk, rising star, Deebo Samuel, looking to come back some point and play his usual self. And you also have Mostert, who's looking to come back at some point. Are you starting to get worried about those guys? Jacob brings up the word tank, and when you think about that, you think of resting players, trying out new things. I mean, when we're talking about redraft leagues, how worried are you about players like Mostert, who's probably coming back in 2 weeks? Deebo Samuel, Brendan Ayuk. Are you worried about these guys? Are you comfortable with Nick Mullins leading that team, trying to compete?
I mean, go ahead, Jacob.
All right, whatever. So this is crazy because we literally have all of the starters at our skill positions. All of them are out. And it's like Deebo Samuel, best wide receiver, number 1 wide receiver, out. Kittle out. Garoppolo out. Mostert out. We lost Joey Bosa. The whole defense is a whole other story. So, and this is not really a fantasy thing, but a football fan thing. There's like fan haters of the Niners that are like, oh, see, the Niners suck. Jimmy sucks. We're all injured. It's a totally different story. But I don't know, man. I feel the one I'm most optimistic about, and I'm sure Joe agrees, is Brandon Ayuk. I think, if anything, he's still going to be fantasy relevant, the most fantasy relevant player for the rest of the season. Because I don't know if Deebo comes back, if he's going to be fully healthy, or if he's going to play again. Same with Mostert. So, and the running backs, I mean, it's just a rotating, carousel. And there's just so many guys. And due to injury, we keep going back and forth. So I really like Brandon Ayuk. And I'm sure Joe agrees.
Yeah, I think Deebo will come back, man, because he's second year. I still think he wants to finish the season strong.
Yeah.
So I think they may hold him out until like after the bye week, which kind of hurts him, just because there's no incentive now to rush him back as there may have been before this week. But yeah, definitely I love Ayuk the rest of the season. And Mostert is the one I'm a little bit most worried about. But if I had to predict, man, I think the Niners are going to swap out the whole running back crew next year. And that's no shame to Mostert because when he's played, he's been fantastic. But the thing is, I think someone's going to pay him more than we're going to be willing to pay him. Coleman's for sure gone. So Mostert, I think he'll try to come back himself because I think he's going to want to play and prove that he's still elite. To go get a contract because he's 28, 29.
And he's on a
old.
1 year. Like this is his last year of his contract. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think he's going to want to come back and play. And I think that Shanahan will let him play. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But the wide receivers I'm not as worried about. And actually, I think Ross Dwelly may emerge a little bit. I think he caught a touchdown this last week, if I'm not mistaken. I think, and he looked pretty good towards the end of last year when Kittle missed a couple games. So I'm kind of excited about him. I want to see what he's got in the tank.
Yeah, if Jordan Reed doesn't come back, I really like Ross Dwelly, like as a solid streamer tight end.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, man. Injuries come about, but you know what? It brings up exciting prospects to take looks at, and that's sometimes exciting for fantasy because you have these these last few weeks here as we get into the second half of the season. There are stars that emerge like the last 3 or 4 games, and there are people that may be on the fantasy waiver wire your entire fantasy season. Then week 12, week 13 comes around, you have this guy winning you a fantasy championship 3 weeks in a row, and he was on the waiver wire the entire year. I can't think of one on the spot.
Robbie Anderson a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I'm glad someone found one. But guess what, guys? Oh, go ahead, Joe. Finish it up.
He killed me in the championship. Gio beat me in beers. And he was on the waiver wire until week 14, dude. Drove me nuts. Put up 28 points in the finale for Gio to secure the W over me. So, yeah, still salty.
Oh, it's good to reminisce about the bad days. But guess what, guys? Hey, the Niners weren't the only people, although it seems like it. They weren't the only team that had injuries this week. We also lost Let's see here. Kenny Galladay, man, hurt his hip. At first, I thought he didn't even play. He put up a goose egg for you, but he did exit early after 4 targets. He's considered week to week. We'll talk about his replacement in a second here. Sam Darnold, shoulder injury, something to look out for. I don't know who you're starting on the Jets, but good luck with that. T.Y. Hilton, he just hasn't been able to get it going all season. Unfortunate for him. Darrell Henderson, who I also think we'll be talking about in just a few minutes as well. And last but not least, Jonathan Taylor, a little bit of an ankle issue. He should be okay, but I know Jacob was a little bit salty. Jacob, do you have something to say about our man, Jonathan Taylor?
We didn't find out that he had a little bit of an ankle issue until after the game, but I'm not giving up on him in the sense where, I'm dropping him, I'm trying to trade him right away, whatever the case is. But I'm giving up on him as far as a must start in my lineup. I have him on one team, and no matter what, every week he was in my starting lineup. I don't think that's the case going forward. I think you look at matchups, you see how the other guys are doing. If you hear Jonathan Taylor's going into a game banged up, it doesn't look good. I think it's similar to like when Chase Claypool had that blow up game. He's going to be a part of the offense going forward no matter what. I feel the same about Jordan Wilkins. He has a blow up game. The coach isn't going to not incorporate him. We've seen that done before with running backs, but this coach is in a good way for the football team as far as winning goes. He's stubborn, and I think he's going to be like, look, it's the hot hand. Whoever's going, doesn't matter that we spent a high draft pick on this rookie. Like, he's not just because, he should be the number one guy on our team every down. He's not going to be. I'm going to do whatever's best for the team. So that's how I just don't feel good about him going forward as far as like an every week starter.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Gabe, you also missed my boy Ridley, man. Ridley went out midway through that game.
I didn't even put that down in the notes because it was such long a time ago, like Thursday night. But you're right.
Yeah, Ridley went out halfway through the game, and he's got a bye. They have one more game before the bye week, and it sounds like you may be without him for 2 weeks. I think it was, but it was the X-rays came back negative. They said it's a minor foot issue, and they're optimistic to have him back soon. So nobody knows. He has 10 days off before the next game. So. But with the Falcons not competing, really, it looks like they're going to keep him out past the bye.
Yeah, when these teams start to quote unquote, lose reins of their season, it's typical to see these players be held out longer than usual because they want to be at 100%. Why risk it, right?
Yeah.
Are we good with injuries, folks? I mean, AJ Dillon also ended up on the COVID-19 list. He's a third-string running back for the Green Bay Packers.
So Jamal Williams is now questionable now because they're saying he was close contact with AJ Dillon. So Jamal Williams might not play on Thursday, and I don't think Aaron Jones is coming back that quickly. They're not going to turn around and have him play, maybe, but they might not even have a running back. Like, they have some other guy and a practice squad guy. Like, we don't even know who's going to be starting for them.
Would you want to start a guy like that, guys? If this so-called Irvin comes out on Thursday Night Football, you willing to start him?
You have to. You have to. Yeah. If he's the only one, it's like DJ Dallas against the Niners last week. If you started him, he was the 4th string, and look what he did. So,
unless the thing is, if you need it, then yeah. I mean, the thing is, I'm likely not going to do that, try to pick him up or anything like that. But who knows? I mean, look at DJ Dallas. We all knew about him. He was a rookie, but he came out of nowhere and produced. So, and
I think Aaron Jones is going to be back though, Jacob, because they were talking about him like 2 weeks ago, how it was very minor. He wanted to play, and then they all of a sudden keep him out another game. So I think personally that was because they had this Thursday turnaround game against the 49ers, which looked like a tough game. So let him get that extra 5 days of rest. I think that was kind of what I thought was going to happen. So we'll see.
I think they were going to plan on holding him out this Thursday, but now that they don't have anybody else, I think they're going to play him because look, if Jamal Williams is fully healthy, right, and you're still worried about Aaron Jones, why not just throw Williams out there one more week? He's been balling, and then bring Jones back. But now I think they actually might bring him back.
Yeah. And the Packers we've seen have been extra cautious with their guys. I mean, we saw with Devontae Adams, that they held him out, even though he was complaining on Twitter that he was 100% ready to go, and they still wouldn't let him play.
Well, they might not have to bring him back since they're playing the Niners. They could just throw pick a lucky fan.
Dude, I know we're banged up, man, but never underestimate Shanahan. I know we're banged up, but we hate the Packers, dude, and we run and we don't even throw against them, man. Look at last year's playoffs. We just ran all over them. Look what Dalvin Cook did this last week, man. 4 touchdowns. They're gonna throw Hasty out there, and this guy's gonna look like the second coming of fucking Jesus, dude. He's gonna
yeah. Good point. He averaged, I think, 2.9 over the weekend, and Green Bay is the best defense in the league to run against. So,
yeah,
you'll be on the lookout for that. Guys, we've been spending a lot of time on injuries. Let's get on some more exciting news. Who's replacing these guys?
I'm ready to go in, Coach. Just give me a chance. I know there's a lot riding on it, but it's all psychological. Just got to stay in a positive frame of mind.
So I'll bring up a few guys here, and I hope none of you bring up one of them because I plan to – he's my dark horse for this week. But I'll bring up 2 that I can think of. And one is Cam Akers, man. A rookie who our good pal here of the show, Jacob Bartley, spent a considerable amount of value on in one of our keeper leagues over the offseason. It just hasn't panned out for him. Sean McVay's committee running back approach has done quite well for NFL purposes, but it doesn't translate well for the fantasy aspect of it. With that being said, you have Henderson exit last week with a thigh injury. He's looking to miss a week or 2. I think in situations like this where, 10, 15 carries might yield you a good flex play in Cam Akers. And it's about time after coming out of a disappointing loss like that to Tua. Can we all give props to Tua on his rookie win? He didn't actually really do much. He was 12 for 22.
No.
Yeah, 12 for 22
are
and a
the
touchdown.
Dolphins just legit or what? They don't even need –
dude, their defense is
the Rams are a
nasty.
good team.
Dude, the Dolphins did it right, man. They sold everybody for draft picks, and they just built the most insane defense that draft picks can buy, not even money. So that's how you build a team, man, in the NFL.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's fair. With that being said, I mean, Cam Akers respectively, 10, 15 touches. They do have a good rushing offense. I think that's one of the big successes for the Rams this year. I think he's worth a speculative ad, maybe a plug-in week 2, week 1, or not week 1, week 2, this week or next week type of guy if Henderson misses time.
Well, they're on their bye week this week, Gabe.
More the reason to pick him up, my friend, because he's probably cheap. If you want to spend I guess you don't want to spend a waiver wire priority on him, but if you have Fab, you're going to get him cheaper this week than next. So just be on the lookout for that. And then I'll bring up one other guy. That's Wilkins. I know Jacob's probably going to talk about him. Jonathan Taylor out with the ankle issue. Wilkins came in 20 touches. 20 touches. I want a guy who gets 20 touches. I know we talk about bad running backs on bad teams, but anybody who can produce is a guy who I want in my lineup. Sorry, David Montgomery. Just doesn't always seem to be you. But those are my 2 guys that I can think of. And there is one more, but I'm saving him for my dark horse. So, Jacob Bartley, got any dark horses? Or not dark horses, any waiver wires?
Top waivers. I do not have Jordan Wilkins on my list. I don't want anything to do with that backfield right now other than holding on to Taylor because the schedule is nice for a running back. But I don't know who that running back's going to be. I do have Cam Akers on my list, but, man, this is tough because – we don't know with the Baltimore situation if Ingram's coming back, but if he doesn't, I like Gus Edwards because, look, Dobbins is mostly rostered in leagues. He's like about 70% rostered in leagues, but Gus Edwards is 30% rostered in leagues. And I don't think a lot of people picked him up. He hasn't been on a lot of people's radar, but let's just say Ingram's out longer or multiple weeks. You could start both of these guys in your flex position in one of your flex spots. So I like picking up Gus Edwards and a receiver, I guess, due to the injury of Kenny Golladay. I guess you can pick up Marvin Jones Jr. if you need a flyer flex play.
Yeah, I don't know too much about that guy, but we're just gonna move on. Joe, do you have any waiver wire ads?
It's funny, Jacob, because I mentioned Gus Edwards 2 weeks ago. You mentioned him last week.
I did, yeah.
I was gonna mention him again this week.
Nobody's
mentioned him again
picking
this
him
week.
up, man. It's
Dude,
crazy.
he's 30% rostered, and the he's performing, and he's performing great. And that backfield without Ingram in it looks better. Dobbins gets on a roll.
Dobbins had a great
Edwards
game.
gets on a roll. If I'm Baltimore, dude, I don't know. Okay, so I don't really have a big. I know there was a lot of injuries. I just didn't see anybody that really stuck out to me as a must-have. But I'm going to go ahead and say keep an eye on Curtis Samuel. 2 weeks in a row, he's performed, I think, as the top wide receiver in Carolina. He showed some explosiveness. He scored 2 touchdowns this last week, one on a big run. And with CMC coming back, and I don't think that's going to be completely gone just because they're going to try to ease CMC in. So maybe look for some, crazy things to happen because he has been getting some running work every game pretty much. So that's something there. And then that's the big one I had, man. The other one, I guess tight ends are so crap right now. Despite what we thought earlier in the season that it was actually going to be a good year. It's probably the worst year of tight ends we've seen in a long time. But Schultz is looking somewhat promising with a bad quarterback. They're not targeting Cooper. He's chucking it down to Schultz. And right now, man, if I can get 10 to 12 points out of my tight end, I'm stoked. So, unless you have Kelsey, nobody else is really, week in and week out performing. Andrews has been a bust. Waller, somewhat of a bust. Kittle's out. So
I believe going into this week, Kittle was the number 1 fantasy tight end, depending on your league scoring formats. But he's out,
I think
obviously.
in points per game.
Probably. Yeah.
Because he's missed some time. I know Kelsey's, as far as sheer points, is number 1. But yeah. So that hurts.
Yeah, as a guy who picked up Schultz quite a few times, I don't think that's a bad idea. I've been streaming tight ends in one league, preferably all season long, and I would like to find a nice, steady hand, and I think Schultz is a good guy. He's going to be reliable, especially with that QB situation over there. Demont Ricks, my friend, do you have a waiver wire ad for us today?
Yeah, you guys pretty much touched on the guys that I would even consider picking up. I think, Joe, you said Samuel. That would have been my number 1 just based on his last 2 weeks, and he's playing KC.
And you don't like Robbie Anderson, so,
Yeah.
And DJ Moore, dude, he's just not getting targets. I don't know.
He just runs 50-yard streaks. So.
Yeah, but it sucks, man.
But did any of you guys mention Gallman at all for pickups or no?
No, I didn't mention him.
Very good one.
I had him as an honorable mention.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. That's the only other person that I would mention is Gallman. He had 2 decent games, and he plays Washington, so he'd be a good flex spot if he's available. He's only like 20% rostered, so.
Yeah.
We say it week in and week out, man. Thin running back position this year, and Gallman, he has produced 2 fantasy relevant starts back-to-back weeks. Definitely someone to keep an eye on, someone to roster, especially with, it looks like, I think –
one last one for you. Sterling Shepard is still only 43% rostered.
Oh, my goodness.
And he put up 18 last week. This week he didn't have a touchdown, but he had 10 targets, 8 catches, 74 yards against one of the toughest defenses in the league in Tampa Bay. I picked him up in like 3 or 4 leagues last week, and I kept him on my bench in all of them just because I didn't like the matchup. And I wish I would have started him in pretty much every league.
Yeah. And also, Michael Hasty is still under 50% rostered with Tevin Coleman injured again. Yeah. And Mostert's not coming back. McKinnon has his role, and he's not –
tired legs, though.
McKinnon's not the workhorse back. And they were giving it to Hasty. They put him in the goal line like 3 times in a row trying to get him that touchdown. And he's a small guy, so it's tough for him. But I think he's going to be the guy until one of these guys come back.
Dude, he may even be the guy for the rest of the year. They like him.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah, they like him. So if you got a chance to swoop him up, you have to.
Yeah, especially behind that line. Even with how decimated that 49ers team is, hey, at the core of it, they're a running football team, and they're only going to run more. So whoever's behind that back, you probably want to own them.
Yeah.
All pretty noticeable. All pretty good noticeable picks. Yeah, we're getting into the thick of it, guys. You need to have your lineup straight away, and these guys are going to help you get there. They're nice fill-ins. Let's move it on, folks. First round fantasies, dark horses of the week. Just say this. You guys may not believe me, but last week, before I gave Jarvis Landry as my dark horse, in highlighted big, bold letters, I said, mention Damian Harris. And I did not mention him because I thought, man, he's got such a tough matchup. And the whole reason why I wanted to say it was because I knew that he was playing the Jets on Monday Night Football next week. And I'm like, that's a primetime matchup. I don't want to say anything too soon. He's going to be my dark horse in 2 weeks. Well, the guy went out and rushed for 16 and 102. He looks good. And on a bad football team, I mean, he's going to be the guy getting the carries. And I think he's got a great matchup. So be on the lookout for Damian Harris. As well, Monday Night Football against the Jets. Derek Carr was someone who I also thought about shouting out this week, but then I looked at the QB field in general and realized that there aren't too many QBs on buys. I was going to compare him to guys like Goff, who's on a buy this week as well. And I just think that Derek Carr has been very serviceable for fantasy purposes. You think about other streaming quarterbacks like Roethlisberger and Jared Goff. Yes, they have more points than him, but he really hasn't given you a dud. He's been respectable week in and week out. And I like him going forward next week too. So Derek Carr's there. But he is not my dark horse of the week. Neither is Damian Harris because we go real dark here. I don't know why I said that. I'm getting weird again, guys. It's late. It's late.
I have like a collection of ultimate Gabe quotes. It's going to be hilarious.
Yeah. Anyways, Jacob Bartley, he mentioned this on the waiver wire ads, and I had to shut him down because I had to show him love here. And that is Marvin Hall, wide receiver for the Detroit Lions. Listen to this. I mean, you're not going to get a better position to come in and prove what you're worth than if you're Marvin Hall on the Detroit Lions. Word is that the trade deadline is fast approaching. It's tomorrow evening, Tuesday. It's tonight, actually, if you're listening now. With that being said, there's word that Marvin Jones could be shopped. He could be traded before the deadline tonight. Even if that's not the case, with Kenny Golladay now going down, missing week to week, as it looks as of right now, 7 targets, 4 receptions, and 116 yards. He had a lot of air yards. We know that Detroit doesn't have the best run game. We've seen Swift have sparks, but at the core of it, they are a team that's usually coming from behind and usually throwing the ball a lot. For that reason, I love Marvin Hall this week. And that's pretty much all I got. I know that Stafford's going to throw the ball a ton. And not only that, they're playing Minnesota, which is the second worst passing rating defense in the league. So he should have a field day, especially if Cook is getting 4 touchdowns on the ground and Detroit has to come back. So yeah, I love Marvin Hall this week. I didn't write my predictions, but I'll get, you know what? I'd say plus or minus 15 fantasy points, but I would argue to say as high as 20. I think he can get 100 yards again and even throw a touchdown on it this time, which would give him a 20-point game. So I'm confident in saying that. Marvin Hall, 100 yards and a touchdown, baby. Let's get it. 20-plus fantasy points. That's my dark horse of the week this week. Damon Ricks, I'll throw it to you. Who's your dark horse player of the week?
My dark horse player of the week is probably going to go – I'm going to go with the Arizona running back Chase Edmonds just because he's fresh off a bye. Kenny Drake's most likely not going to play, and they're going against Miami, and they're going to try to prove something. And they're coming off that win versus Seattle. So that's who I would say was 102. Easy.
We've all taken our shots at Edmonds this year. I know Jacob was the first, and he got him correct. I came out the next week, said, hey, it's time to double down, and Unfortunately, he laid a pooper. That was on the Damon, you weren't here. That was on the great Monday night show where Joe got his birthday gift.
Oh, was
Yeah.
that the one? Yeah.
Yeah, that was the one. But Joe, Damon, it's not a bad pick. I really like Edmonds going forward. It's safe to say that if he plays well, I think when Drake comes back, he does get a fair share of that workload as well. I'm excited to see what Edmonds can do, and that's a good pick. Let's see. Jacob Bartley, what do you got from him, man? Dark horse pick of the week?
Yeah, so it's getting tougher to find these, to be honest, because you don't want to choose somebody that everyone's starting no matter what. And you also, there's a lot of guys that are on benches or the waiver wire who you don't want to choose as your dark horse. So I think this, as we get further and further into the season, and there's so many injuries and bye weeks, that has a lot to do with it. So I searched around and I settled on James White of the New England Patriots. So there's nothing other than Damian Harris. There's nothing really to look forward to fantasy-wise in New England. And Damian Harris is very matchup dependent, and so is James White. But I don't see the Patriots being up in any games for the rest of the season. And also, they're playing the Jets, I believe, this upcoming week. And I just think James White has a safe floor. He's projected for 11 fantasy points in the Yahoo full PPR that we play in. So I'm going to say James White gets you a solid 15 or more fantasy points this week.
Ooh, that's bold.
That's bold. That's bold, Cotton. That's bold.
Yeah.
Because I think, and we're talking full PPR, like if he has 6 catches, that's 6 of your points right there. So
he can't throw
6 catches for 22 yards. Let's see.
Yeah, that's the thing though. I don't know why it works. Brady looked for him all the time, and I don't know why Cam isn't utilizing that. Like, I watched some of their games, and I'm like, just if you don't have anything else, just throw it to James White, and he'll get the first down. So I just think Belichick is smart enough to possibly figure that out. So hopefully we'll see.
That's a good one.
Joe, what about you, my man? Who's your dark horse player of the week?
I mean, I agree with Jacob. It is getting harder to find these. I was going to come out and say Justin Jackson, and I think – but the problem is after that kind of a week where he just had 17, 18, he's playing against the Raiders, you're not going to bench him. So I'm going to say Hasty, and maybe you're not going to bench him either, but against the Green Bay Packers, and I know the Niners are decimated. I know, we're down to our last options, but – like Gabe alluded to earlier, our line is still relatively healthy, and Hasty is the young gun that they want to see what he has if he's worth keeping around next year. So I think that this kid is going to see 15-plus touches, maybe 20, and I actually think that you can pencil him in for 15 fantasy points pretty easily, and if he gets a touchdown, he's hitting 20. So I like him this week. I'm going to go ahead and say 15-plus easily, and could be a really big game against these awful Packer run defense. So
it's so bad.
Yeah,
that's a good choice. I'm actually mad I didn't think of that one.
Yeah, it is getting harder and harder, fellas. But guess what? You know what? It's getting harder and harder for our fantasy fans out there to decide who am I plugging in this week. The biggest thing for me is always that flex spot. So when I think of players for my dark horses, I'm always thinking who's that flex guy that's going to come in, have a safe floor, or that guy that's going to have a high ceiling but is really under the radar. And I know they're getting harder and harder to come by, but trust me, guys, give it a week. You never know. There's always somebody that's coming out of the woodworks, and we're going to be the first one to let you know about them. But you know what we're also going to let you know about? We're honest here at First Round Fantasy, and we give second-round advice, which means we got to take a look at last week's picks for Dark Horse. With that being said, I did not do too hot. Jarvis Landry, the man came out, 11 targets. It was healthy to see. And he also dropped a touchdown in the end zone. It looked like he came down with it, which if any of you watched that game, I think towards the end of the game, there was a Raiders wide receiver who had a similar catch in the end zone.
Renfro.
And Renfro. And it's just like, you're going to give that one to him, but not Jarvis Landry his. I don't know. It looked kind of the same to me.
Hey, if you would have known how windy it was,
it looked the same.
if you would have known how windy it was going to be, man, you wouldn't have chosen Jarvis Landry.
Oh, it wasn't even that. I mean, he had that touchdown in his hands, dropped it, and he also was targeted on one of the last plays of the game to keep it in contention. And he got hit super hard, but he had that ball too. So with that being said, 11 targets and what would have been 4 catches for 50 yards could have been 6 catches for 80 yards and 2 TDs. So I'm not ashamed of it. I still think he's a solid flex play week in and week out now that Odell is not here, especially the 11 targets. That's a good sign. It just didn't bode well for me in my 17-plus fantasy point prediction. Jacob, you went with Mike Gesicki, the big man, coming in to help Tua on his debut.
Bro, Jacob, you drinking one of those Kool-Aid jammers?
Is that a Kool-Aid jammer?
Hey, perfect. I drank the Kool-Aid on Mike Gesicki, all right? I didn't even do that on purpose, but
Kool-Aid jammer.
Yeah, I know, dude. You're trying to keep it
I'm
hidden.
making an announcement. You guys know how high I was on Mike Gesicki this year. I'm done. I'm giving up.
Listen,
I can't take you seriously with that bottle. Oh, and there he goes drinking it.
Hey, but
Put it down,
I
dude.
put my money where my mouth is. I dropped him in Dynasty. I'm done.
Ooh.
wow.
Damn, when you drop somebody in Dynasty, you know it's real.
Yeah, then it's serious.
Yeah, it's serious.
Oh man! All right. Well, hey, sorry to hear that, Jacob. And
No, it's all right. It feels good. It's like I cut myself off from that. It feels good.
Yeah, dude.
Kind of like Joe with Evan Ingram.
And he actually did pretty good tonight, so I'm a little bit upset, but it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Well, Gabe?
Let's see.
Well, Gabe?
Yeah. I'm getting to you. Joe was successful in choosing his Brandon Ayuk.
Ooh,
He's a nice man.
Good pick, Joe.
Nice man. Good play. Came out, brought it to the table. Damon was not here last week. He did not have a pick, so we're going to skip Damon. And Justin. Justin went with Teddy Bridgewater on Thursday night in what was a primo matchup. And again, guys, you hear us talk a lot about matchups, and it's like, oh, this guy has a great matchup. Oh, this guy has a great matchup. And it's usually because they are true. The teams that they are going against are statistically bad against that position and ceding fantasy points to that position. Doesn't mean that it's always going to work out. It should, but it doesn't. So that's just where we're at. So those were our first round, or those were our dark horses last week. With that being said, we got some good ones this week. So I'm pretty confident that we're all on the rebound here, except for Joe. He's going to look to make it 2 in a row. Let's move on and see what we got for Full Scope.
You are out of here. Whatever. I don't really care. I'm just going to sit this one out.
Alrighty, folks. I guess we can recap before we get into it this time. My Fool's Gold pick last week. And you know what, guys? We talked about this a little bit before the show earlier today. I had the Dallas wide receiving corp, but I chose the wrong wide receivers. CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup. They went out. They had, they were relevant. If you started them in a pinch, which most people probably weren't starting them, they were starting their man Amari Cooper.
You still won that Fool's Gold, man. I think.
I'm kind of upset, to be honest, because I don't remember what league it was, but I was scouring through like I usually do at Sunday at 9 a.m., seeing who people left, and I see Michael Gallup, and part of me is like, he's been trash all year, but third-string quarterback sometimes goes to somebody a little less usual, and I didn't pick him up. I thought he did good, man.
I just saw he had 12 targets for 7 catches and 61 yards.
They were all behind the line of scrimmage.
Dude, he was fine.
They were all behind the line of scrimmage for sure. He did a lot of work after the catch.
Yeah.
But you put the ball in the guy's hands enough, and he's going to score you points. And it's just a matter of time till one of those is broken off for 40 yards or 30 yards. So,
dude, he's a great player. Like, I wish if I were the Packers, I would be trying to trade for Michael Gallup instead of Will Fuller. Like they're talking about.
If Dak was still in, he'd be.
But Dallas probably would rather trade Amari Cooper, but nobody will take him.
I heard that they're not trying to trade Gallup at all, man.
Well, he's great, and you're not going to have to pay him Cooper money either.
True.
Yeah. Well, someone will step up for Cooper, man. Imagine Cooper on the Packers and having Cooper Adams line up and be the 2 targets, dude. That would be insane.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. They'll only do it if Dallas, pays his salary, some of his salary or most of it,
Yeah. We'll see.
Well, speaking of Jacob, your fool's goal player was Ronald Jones. He came out and did not deliver, which means you did a good job, my friend.
He
Congratulations.
fumbled again early in the game, and
he was doghoused
They
for the
just-
rest of the game, pretty much.
Yep, the rest
it's
of the game.
tough, man. With Fournette there, it's tough.
It's
It's tough.
unfortunate too because he came out looking like he's again going to be the lead dog and that he was going to hold on to his spot, and then he actually had 4 catches too. So it looked like it was a good start to the game, and then all of a sudden fumble and
It's weird. Some guys fumble on other teams, and the coach like keeps them in and wants them to come back, but not with Brady and this team.
Yeah, the same was with the Patriots, man. You'd score 4 touchdowns, and then you'd fumble once, and you're done for the season. Not
Like
just
3 weeks, you're done for like multiple weeks. Yeah.
You're done.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, well, that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. Joseph, you went with Melvin Gordon. He not delivered, I should say. So good for you, my friend. Solid pick on telling the fantasy viewers not to, or at least lower your expectations. And Justin went with DeAndre Swift, who coming off of 2 hot weeks was probably in everybody's lineups, and he shouldn't have been because Justin told you not to.
See, that's a good
Justin,
fool's goal.
you're not listening to Justin. All right? That's what happened. But guess what? We got a whole new set of them this week for you guys. And I'm going to start off with Joe. Joe, who is your fool's goal player of the week?
So my fool's goal this week is
It started so slow. So,
Yeah, man.
it's
a big one. But it might be too easy, but it's a big one. It's Ezekiel Elliott. And
Wow.
You snake mine.
he's going against the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's not getting any traction. And I was talking to Justin about it, and he's like, dude, ever since Dak went out, but I don't know because he wasn't running that great even with Dak. And I'm like, dude, the problem for Zeke specifically was not necessarily the losing Dak. That hurt, don't get me wrong. But they have one healthy offensive lineman. If you guys watched the Eagles-Cowboys game, they were running behind him all game. But you can't do the same run.
And he just came back this week.
Yeah.
He was out.
Yep, Martin. And so it's like, dude, you have no healthy offensive lineman. Well, what was the biggest thing that we always talked about Dallas? Why was Zeke always that first pick?
They had the best offensive line in the league.
They had the best offensive
Not
lineman.
anymore.
Close. And yeah, exactly. So now you're Dakless. Your receivers aren't stepping up. You have no offensive line. Their defense is absolutely awful. So they're not going to run. I don't think that they're going to keep handing the ball off to Zeke like that. I think, and we saw it. Pollard had his carries a lot more than he usually does. And I think we're going to start to see that with kind of a lost season for Dallas is what can Pollard do also. So I'm not starting Zeke. I don't have him in any leagues, but it's so hard because how the hell do you bench Ezekiel Elliott? But playing against Pittsburgh, you have to. You have to.
Well, look,
I
a lot
agree
of
with you.
fantasy teams aren't going to have a choice, right? Like, there's a lot of fantasy teams where you don't have anybody to start. Like, you just have to start him, right? But, it depends. Like, in a league, for example, like I have Jamal Williams. He might not play, but let's just say he does. I have Jamal Williams, Christian McCaffrey, and Boston Scott, right? And Ronald Jones. Like, I might want to start all of those guys over Zeke this week.
Yeah,
you know?
I made
So-
some names too. Lindsey, Gibson, David Johnson. If I have any of those guys, easy starts over Zeke for me.
No, I'm still starting Zeke.
Well, you just
Yeah, Dalton's back.
Dalton's
You know what?
trash though. It's the line.
No, Dalton is trash, but at least he can throw the ball down the field.
Well, I like Dalton back for the receivers too, though. Also,
Yeah.
But I agree with you, Demont. Like, it's hard benching Zeke. I think Dalton back
You don't
helps
bench
Zeke
Zeke.
for sure.
You don't bench Zeke.
Listen, it might.
Let's take it to book it down territory, boys. Let's take it to book it down territory.
Oh, I'll take
call-
Zeke over everybody he mentioned.
Well, just for this week, we could set a
for this week.
line.
So yeah, what
Let's-
are you thinking, Demont? What do you think? If under 50, I mean, it's Zeke.
Full
So
PPR.
Zeke's gonna get 15. Yeah.
okay, I'll say
No. I take Zeke over all the guys you mentioned.
okay. Well, so you want to do it like that? So Gibson.
So then we get the field of.
Gibson, Lindsey, and
Yeah.
Scott.
Come on, stop.
no, I said DJ. I didn't say Scott. Jacob
Oh,
said.
that was Jacob. All right.
So any of those three score over Zeke, I win. And if Zeke
Yeah,
over all three of them, then you win.
Oh yeah, that's easy. Bro.
Okay, easy. I'll do that.
It's like Mike Tyson
I feel like
versus
that's
three
one just
toddlers.
between them.
Yeah, I'm
but
staying out of that one.
what were the three guys you mentioned, Joe?
It was
Gibson,
Gibson, and Philip Lindsay.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it could go either way, but I'm gonna. Yeah, I don't know.
yeah,
No, choose a side, guys. You can't just sit back.
Okay,
Yeah,
fine. Zeke over.
So Zeke just has to beat one of those. Oh wait, no.
No, he'd beat all three of them.
All three of them have.
Yeah.
I'm taking the field.
Ooh, you're taking the field?
But that's tough because Zeke is the best player out of all of those guys.
Yeah.
But
Listen,
I'm taking the field because I think it's gonna be.
you're always taking Zeke 10 out of 10 times. You're not even debating it, But the fact that you're like, dude, Philip Lindsay or Zeke, that's shown kind of where he's at.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
This.
I don't feel good about it, but I'm taking the field.
This brings me to a popular. It brings me to a popular side note. We've been fortunate enough for the last couple of weeks here at First Round Fantasy to get some viewer questions. Some hot top or some hot, I don't know what I'm saying again. Some start sit advice on Sunday mornings and occasionally throughout the weekdays. So we appreciate you guys for having the confidence to lend us your scenarios so we can help you out. I'm here to say, just like most other things, we don't always get it right, folks. So there's no need to take out the backlash on us. Perfect example, we had someone who asked us if they should start, I believe it was Giovanni Bernard. Of course, you wanted to start him this week. He played wonderful for you. But then you had a scenario in which, who am I sitting, Gaskin or Zeke? And a lot of us went Gaskin because, he had a new quarterback. The scenario didn't look too great for Tua. The Rams were coming off of 2 straight weeks of shutdown defense. And it was a scenario that said, hey, take me out of the ball game. Unfortunately, that's what happened, and that's not how it played out. But the way that you look at it is, you don't come back and tell us, well, of course I shouldn't have listened to you. I was going to sit Zeke in the first place. No, you don't tell us that. If that's what you were going to do in the first place, then that was what you should have done in the first place.
Those two were separated by 5 points.
It wasn't that big a difference either.
Unless you lost your game by 5 points or more, or 5 points or less, then it becomes a little bit trickier.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing that up,
still,
CJ.
make your own decision. Like, don't blame the people that you took advice from. No, I'm not saying us in general. Like any fantasy analyst, like don't blame them. You made the decision to move the guy or not. So
I look at all of those guys coming into the week, but at the end of the day, I just feel better about someone than someone else, and I'll make my own decision.
And sometimes, honestly, I'm influenced too much. Like, for example, Alexander Madison a few weeks ago, everybody said, you have to start him, fire him up. And remember I texted you, Joe, I was like, I don't know about this, man. Should I or not? And I just made the decision to start him. And Jimmy Garoppolo, everybody was saying, fire up Jimmy this week.
I started him.
He's going to have a blow-up game against Seattle's terrible secondary. It happened again. It screwed me over. So make your own decision, basically.
You can get the advice from us, but ultimately, after you have collected all of the viewer input and data that we have given you, then you make your justification and your choice, all right? At the end of the day, the choice is yours, my friend, and we appreciate you coming to us for advice. But yeah, Devon, I'm taking the table there as well. I'm taking the field. So good luck to you, my friend. Let's continue on, folks, because we were on Fool's Gold players, and we are killing the time clock today. So, Damon, I'm going to hand it over to you. Who is your Fool's Gold player?
I'll be quick because
Fool's Gold too.
I'll be quick because it's running long. I'm going to go with Metcalf getting under his projected points just because it seems that Lockett and him just take turns at having blow-up games and the other guy just kind of playing decoy. So my Fool's Gold is going to be DK Metcalf.
I mean, I want to say I like it. It's not a bad one. His projection total is I believe, it's 15. And
we'll get under that.
Full PPR. If you believe he's under that, I mean, I don't blame you. It's a salty one. It's really hot, but I don't blame.
What are they playing?
They're playing the Buffalo, which is in or at Buffalo too. So it's going to be cold as hell.
Oof, I hate cold
Might even
games.
snow.
Jacob Bartley, who's your Fool's Gold player of the week?
Man, I really want to go one way, but I'm going to go another way. And I'm going to go with another guy that I don't feel confident about starting anymore, and that's Lamar Jackson. They're playing Indianapolis this week. And I don't know what to say, man. He's arguably the most disappointing player in fantasy this year who's been healthy all season long. And for example, the reason I'm disappointed in this, I took him in the 3rd round in one of my leagues, and he hasn't really been the reason I've been losing, but he hasn't been helping me win. So honestly, I would play imagine if you picked up Herbert off the waiver wire and you have Herbert and Jackson. I feel way better starting Herbert. So my Fool's Gold of this week is Lamar Jackson, and that's because he's normally a set it and forget it quarterback. So he's my Fool's Gold. I don't know what to say, what the line should be for him. We play in 6 touchdown leagues for the most part, 6-point touchdown leagues.
His projection is 21 points.
Yeah.
Guys, Dak Prescott has more points.
I'll say he gets under that. I'll say he gets under 20.
Yeah, well, he came out last week and only gave you 16. I benched him in our Dynasty League in favor
he needs to be benched.
And Derek Carr, and they did better than him. So,
yeah.
I totally understand.
Dak Prescott has more points than him.
It's the sophomore slump, fellas. It doesn't happen to Patrick Mahomes, but it happens to the rest of us. So we just have to deal with it. My Fool's Gold player of the week, it's Todd Gurley, running back for the Los Angeles Rams. Todd Gurley, running back for the Atlanta Falcons. Look at me stuck in 2019. 18 carries for 46 yards against everyone's favorite team to run against, Carolina Panthers, last week on Thursday Night Football. It just was not enough to have a fantasy relevant performance, and he just didn't look good. He looked a little slow, and I feel bad to say this because I like the guy. This week he takes on one of the top 2 rushing defenses in the league, and that's Denver. I'm afraid to start anybody against Denver, running back wise, and especially if that's Todd Gurley. I think at the end of the day, he's getting the same type of production. He's going to get 16, 20 carries, but he's going to give you under 11 fantasy points. And I think he got you 9 last week. So I, like Joe said, Gibson, guys that are coming up, Lindsey, guy that's getting healthy. Those are all players that I would start over Todd Gurley this week as well. So that was my Fool's Gold player of the week. And gentlemen, we have some good ones. I think.
Oh, did you say yours?
Yeah, my Fool's Gold was Zeke.
Oh yeah,
he was first. It got us a long road.
That was a while ago. That was like 20 minutes ago. Yeah.
All right, folks. So let's go ahead and move on to our trade targets of the week. This is Joe's favorite segment. Joe, you got a buy or sell target for us today?
Come back to me in a second. I want to hear what Jacob has to say.
Jacob, you got a buy sell target for us
I
today?
do have one. I have a buy, and that is Myles Gaskin. He has been pretty solid all year. He's been a solid RB2, I would like to say. I'm not sure where he's at on the year exactly. And I just think that with Miami's defense playing well and Tua just maybe being some type of game manager-ish type quarterback for now until he gets more comfortable. And I'm sure like if Tua stays healthy, we're going to see him blow up like year 2, year 3. But for now, they're probably just going to have him game manage, get the experience. And look at Gaskin's last few games, and this is in our leagues, 13, 16, 29. They're not blow-up games. When you have guys going off for 30, 35, 40, people don't trade those guys unless they're ripping you off. But he hasn't done enough to be untradeable, and he's done enough for me to go target him. He had 18 carries for 47 yards and a touchdown. Like, you'll take that this time of year. So I would try to get Myles Gaskin if you can, because like if you can trade Zeke for Myles Gaskin and something, which people will still do because Zeke is Ezekiel Elliott, I would do something like that in redraft.
Mm-hmm.
Fair assessment. It's not a bad pick. He's currently the running back 17 on the year.
That's pretty solid. That's pretty damn solid for a guy who came out of nowhere.
He's a low end RB2, but I'll take that any day of the week. He's consistent. And I think that's key. Joe, back to you, my friend. The ball's in your court. Buy or sell this week?
I like Jacobs about buying Gaskin, but I don't know if it's too late for this one, but I went out and targeted him Last week I gave up too much. But Michael Thomas, and I'm holding out hope, man. And maybe it's just because I bought him in so many leagues thinking he's got to come back. But listen, the Saints, they're in it, right? They haven't fallen out. They're 5-2, and they've got their biggest matchup probably of the year coming up this week against the Buccaneers. And I think that they purposely have been holding him out a couple extra weeks to get to this spot where they knew they could come out and they could beat the Bears. The Bears were, a lot of people said a fake 5-1, a fake 5-2, whatever they were. And I think they knew they could beat him without Michael Thomas. Why rush him back? You need him for the playoffs. They're a real Super Bowl contender. Well, now they're coming up against the Buccaneers and listen, I almost picked Michael Thomas for my dark horse because not only one, I'm predicting him to play against Tampa Bay this week, but I'm predicting that he's going to ball out and he's going to make you remember the name and everybody's kind of forgot about him.
Is this a Fort Minor song?
I've talked to a lot of people about it, and everyone's like, "No, dude, Michael Thomas, he's done, dude. No, he's."
Well, there are people who would consider benching him on the first week back, so that could have been a reasonable dark horse.
And listen, he punched a teammate, and they're gonna trade him. Dude, Sean Payton's on Twitter trolling these people, like, dude, there's no way we're trading Michael fucking Thomas. So he's gonna be back, and he's going to ball out. And so if you can still buy from somebody who's like, dude, he's not coming back and they've given up all hope, go out and buy. I paid too much to Gabe last week, but I still think it'll pay off. It'll pay off.
He's averaging 20 fantasy points a game. That's a payoff.
Dalvin Cook averages like 50.
Yeah, but we'll see what happens with Dalvin, man. That team is not in it, and that kind of scares me. Yeah, they beat up on the Packers. Everybody beat up on the Packers.
That's fair. DeMont Ricks, you got to buy yourself for me this week?
Why did you saying our last names?
Because I'm a teacher now. It's just what I do.
Oh, okay.
Hey, listeners don't know us. It's okay.
Oh, you're right. So my sell would be Cooper Kupp, because I think this is probably the most value you're going to get out of him for the rest of the season.
That's interesting.
I haven't seen anybody get 21 targets
in
a long time.
Targets.
Have you guys remember any time?
It's a random record, man.
That's a lot of targets. So his value is super high, and I would try and unload him for somebody like him and like a Gaskin for like Zeke. I would do personally to get Zeke.
All right, DeMont, I'm sending you a Cooper Kupp trade right now in Dynasty, all right?
Yeah, I'm down.
No, I'm trading him to you.
And then my buy would be, I don't know. I'm trying to buy Julio right now just because he's so good and he's the best wide receiver in football.
Are you worried?
And he has a bye week coming up. So
are you worried he's about to get traded though?
Ooh.
Julio's
anywhere he goes, he's going to be the best wide receiver.
Not if he goes to Green Bay, but maybe not if he goes to Green Bay. But
what do you
still,
mean? He'll be ridiculous if he goes to Green Bay. You can't guard him.
He just never had a Aaron Rodgers, but I like that, DeMont. I like that.
Hey, actually, guys,
who was your sell again? Cooper Kupp. What I will say is, man, if you guys remember last year at the beginning of the year, Cooper Kupp killed it. Mm-hmm. And I remember talking to Jacob coming into this season with Dynasty, and he was like,
"Yeah,
I
was high on him.
He was a top 10 guy last year. There's no reason he shouldn't be still he's 27, but he's only been in the league 3-4 years. I think he could turn it on actually at the end of the season. So if you find someone like DeMont that wants to sell him, I'd buy him.
Okay.
Let's talk in some leagues if you got him.
I got you, Joe.
Do I?
I can use them in Dynasty, Jacob. I'll tell you that.
Let's do it.
You got some good ones, guys. Good trade targets out there. Yeah. We're moving right on along. We're taking a look at our first round fantasy podcasters fantasy league this week. We got the big L from the FF Sackos. Again, much love to you guys. They put out great content, great quality. We didn't do bad. Our team just didn't really have that one guy that's been pushing us over the edge every week. We had a lot of guys that had solid performances, but no one really had a great performance. So we lost by about 15 or 16 fantasy points. But we will see you again, FF Sackos. We will see you again. Next week, we take on the fantasy football prodigy. This guy has shot up on the Instagram community. He's just got followers for days. I see his posts. People are always coming to him for last minute questions and whatnot. Just a really great all around guy as well. So be on the lookout for him. First round fantasy, or not first round fantasy. Guys, it's been one of those days. I'll tell you that. He's the fantasy football prodigy. All right. He's 5-3. We are now 5-3. So it'll be a good match.
Oh man, that's a big
What
one.
place are we ahead of him? And
We should be in second place, and I think he's right behind us.
okay,
So we should be good. Guys, in honor of the trade deadline, Trevor Breer over on Facebook had a question for us. And our viewer question of the week from Trevor Breer is this. Who is a player that you would like to see traded before tonight's trade deadline and to where? And I'll start it off because Joe has been biting this. He's been tooting this horn on this train for a couple of weeks now, and I just keep buying it. I'm eating it up, and I want all of it. And this Juju Smith-Schuster midnight deal to the Las Vegas Raiders, baby, is going to happen. And he's going to sign his contract, and it's going to be good and gravy. So that's mine.
I don't know, Gabe. I don't know. The last
I
two
think he's likely to sign with him in the off season, not get traded this year because they want to win this year.
sticking around, man. They love him. Look at that. Last 2 weeks, 14 targets, 8 targets.
But you think they're gonna pay him the money that he wants?
What the
I
hell?
wasn't being realistic.
To stay injured? No, they're not paying Deontay Johnson. It's going to be him and Claypool, and those two are going to be the guys. So we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what their cap structure looks like. They got a lot of guys on the defense. I'm sure they need to re-sign. So I don't know, but he is still one of Big Ben's favorites, even if he fell out for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I love the guy. And again, this wasn't a realistic scenario. I'm just saying that's something I
Well, it said who do you want to get traded and where? So that's a fair.
Hey.
Joe, you got one?
Murray to get traded to the Niners, but no.
Who?
Kyler Murray.
Oh,
Listen,
All right, fine. I guess let's try to get a little realistic. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I just watched Javon Mims punch in the face on live TV. I guess it's recorded. Oh my god, he sucker punched him. Did you
talking
guys
about when
see that?
he snatched his
Oh!
chain and punched him?
yeah, I saw that.
That's a thug move.
From a pure fantasy perspective, and I'm not really relying on this anymore, but just for value, I would like to see Amari Cooper get traded. And I would like to actually see him get traded to the Miami Dolphins.
Ooh,
I would like
good.
Yeah, I would like to see another
Are
really
you a Dolphin fan?
No, I
Yeah,
just
he
You
is.
converted, like, stop it. Like, it's sad, Jacob. It's sad.
hey, he forced me to choose these teal colors as our colors because he's a Dolphin.
Yeah.
He's a Dolphin fan.
Listen, man, it's just I look at Burrow, look at Herbert. Okay, that they and Kyler and Allen to a certain extent as well. These young quarterbacks that have been balling out have been exciting for fantasy football, man. It's a breath of fresh air that we needed, man. I'm not starting Matthew Stafford anymore, even if he had a good week last week, because Herbert's doing just as much, right? If not more, way more. So I want to see Tua become fantasy relevant just so that we have another guy there. And I think the path to him doing that is having more receivers he can rely on. And Amari Cooper is an excellent guy for that role.
Yeah, and the only reason for them to do that is if they're going to be in the playoffs, and they might be in the playoffs, which is crazy.
Yeah, dude. I mean, if you
Crazy.
look at the AFC, who is
And to your point, man, Herbert and Burrow both have elite wide receivers that they're throwing to. Like, we never see quarterbacks come into the league that have that good of options right away, which is crazy.
Yeah, and dude, Amari Cooper is not that old. And if there's a team that can afford to pay a guy like Amari Cooper, who's 26 years old, by the way, just turned 26 this summer, so he's still really young, and he still has 4 or 5 more good years in him. If there's a team that can afford to pay him, it's the Dolphins, who have like more rookie contracts than anybody in the league. So you go out and get a guy like Cooper, and you give Tua that target that he can rely on. And now Devontae Parker shifts down to number 2, and he's looking like a better play moving forward also. So I like both of those guys kind of in that respective role. I just think it makes too much sense, man. And look at AFC. I'm not scared of the Browns. If I'm the Dolphins, I'm not scared of the Raiders. I feel like I'm a better football team than both of them.
Oh, my. You sound silly, dude. from our resident
You're
Dolphin
spending too
fan.
much time with your girl's dad.
Yeah,
We're moving on, Joe. See you later.
yeah.
Defense
Hey,
sucks.
mute him.
His defense sucks. I don't care if you guys stop the.
No. Okay. See. Okay. There's my trade target for football.
Yeah.
JJ Watt
To where?
JJ
to the Raiders.
Okay.
Come on,
Texans suck.
any fantasy player?
Fantasy.
I guess IDP.
I guess it doesn't have to be fantasy.
Okay,
No,
but JJ Watt would make our defense.
Better, which would make Josh Jacobs better. There you go.
Hey, his
'Cause-
question said
No.
he was a player, not a fantasy player.
But
Yeah, but
for-
they're
they're
fantasy.
both going to the Raiders. I want Julio and the Raiders. But okay. That's it.
Julio on the Raiders.
Jacob, you got one to close this out?
So I talked about Mike. It doesn't make sense for the Cowboys to trade Michael Gallup, I guess. But what if they got? I don't think he's worth a first round pick. But what if they got a second round pick for Gallup? And I'm talking about the New Orleans Saints. Look, I think Michael Thomas is coming back. The other guys, what's his name, is on the COVID-19 list. We've seen guys on there for like the whole season. So who knows when Emmanuel Sanders is coming back? The rest of the team has been usable, but not great. Can you see a case where Michael Thomas comes back? They trade a second round pick to get Michael Gallup. I think Michael Gallup would ball out on the Saints. So for fantasy, I would love if he got traded to the Saints like tomorrow, right? He would be the number one waiver wire pickup because he got dropped a lot. Michael Gallup to the Saints.
That's actually a good trade.
You know, where Damon and I came out and just wanted our team to get better.
Yeah, we wanted our
Jacob
team to get better.
came in with the clutch, reasonable expectations type of
Thank
trades.
you. Appreciate it, Jacob.
Guys, sure.
Hey, Jacob, we can agree though. The Cowboys should move one of those receivers.
Well, the
Because
thing is, I think Cooper's going to be harder to move. But think about this: they're being forced to give up, right? So kind of like the Niners, but on a bigger scale for them.
Yeah.
But so if you can get a second round pick for Gallup and just keep Cooper, then why not? I mean,
yeah, it just seems to me like they're relying on, they got a big payroll. They've got some guys they still need to sign after getting Zeke.
Yeah.
Needs a long-term contract. So Cooper, even if you have to pay something to get off of him, seems like more logical choice.
I agree. I think they can do a thing where like the team takes on half of his contract, or like half of the yearly pay or whatever. So we'll see.
Yeah. But I like it. One of those Cowboys, my point was one of those Cowboys receivers has to go.
Well, definitely not Lamb, but one Gallup or Cooper, yeah.
Well,
Lamb's not going nowhere.
But for next year, it just makes that situation a lot better for all of us.
Yeah.
That's fair. Well, hey, again, thank you. Let's see who we got here. Trevor Breer over on Facebook. As always, guys, you now have 3 options to reach us with your fantasy advice. That is Facebook at First Round Fantasy, First Round Fantasy at Instagram, or First Round Fantasy at gmail.com. We are happy to see those questions come in, and we are happy to answer them for you. I don't know why I'm saying this, but hey, if you're getting it from a First Round Fantasy podcast, you're probably living under a rock or just way into the fantasy. But you should be voting today. Go out, vote, do your civic duty. With that being said, I think that's it for us here at First Round Fantasy. We wish you all a safe Tuesday and a good rest of your fantasy week. Good luck to all of you. Goodbye.
Take it easy.